never got to see your mother and father together, correct? I mean, as husband and wife, right?
Right.
So the fact that they weren't, the fact that you were divorced, they divorced at a very young age, you weren't, you had your doubts about your abilities to love because of the fact that your mother and father did you have doubts about your own abilities to love and to be loved growing
Yeah.
up? Why?
Because I wasn't sure that it was real.
What do you mean? You weren't sure it was real?
I wasn't sure that I could trust that person to stay. And I couldn't trust them to, with my heart, with my feelings, my emotions.
And do you think that that mistrust started with your mother and father?
I feel it did.
One example, give me one example of, or a couple examples of how you lost trust between you and your father and mother. Were there certain incidences that reinforced your mistrust?
Yes, because when my family died, they left me.
I mean, I'm speaking specifically of your mother and father's relationship. I mean, the fact that you never really saw them in love with one another, never saw them together. They'd always been apart in your life. They've always been separated.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw them, I didn't see them together as husband and wife. And then the multiple relationships that they had, I didn't feel the strong love that I thought that they should have had together. My dad had young women in his life. I mean, younger than him. My dad married a woman he was 62 and married a woman that was 23. And then, my mom had a man that she married that was very abusive to her.
Let's talk about your dad. I mean, let's focus on your dad. Now, seeing that your dad married younger women, is that what you felt? Is that what you thought of relationships? That it should be that way? That a younger woman should be with an older man because that's what your father had taught you? That's what your father exposed you to? Is that what you felt? Is that how you felt relationships should be in the beginning when you were younger?
I think so, because it seemed like that's how you got loved. That's how you got nurtured. That was where the security was.
With an older man.
Yes.
Now, tell me how you felt about your father. Tell me what he meant to you as a young girl, and what was your relationship like with your dad?
He was
As a young girl.
he was everything. My dad, I had him on a pedestal. He was my knight in shining armor. He could do no wrong. I mean, I was daddy's little girl. He gave me everything. I mean, if I gave him a good enough reason for wanting it, I could have it. All my hopes, all my dreams were tied up in him.
So you also that reinforced your idea that men should be a provider, should be a provider for in the relationships between men and women. Is that it? Did that reinforce the fact that you know men should be providing for your well-being also?
And my security.
Mm.
That was my security.
Mm.
Once that was gone, what was I to do? Where was I to go? Um, he provided all that security for me. When that was gone, what do you do?
So you lived with your father from time to time, but you stayed with your mother, correct?
Yes.
So how many days or months out of the year did you stay with your dad? Or was that later on in your life that you stayed with your dad?
Well, when I was a baby, it was more with my mom. But as I got older, my brother and I, we would spend most of our summers with my dad. Holidays, stuff like that.
Mm. And how old were you when you started dating in your teens, correct?
Not necessarily dating,
Mm.
I would, hanging out more so.
How did your father feel about the boys that came around the house, or the boys that tried to court you growing up?
No,
Was he disciplinarian? Was he very strict with you about relationships with boys and men?
no comment. He
Mm.
never gave any comment.
Did
Never any comment.
did that make you feel uncomfortable that he didn't have an opinion about it? Or
It was actually just the question of why he never said anything.
why do you think he never said anything? Because your mother was raising you?
I'm really uncertain and unclear about that.
Hmm.
I think it was he never really shared himself. I mean,
Mm.
I didn't even know him. I mean, I knew his name
Mm.
and that he was my dad.
Mm.
He really didn't even share his own self with me.
How did that make you feel that he didn't care about that aspect of your life? Was it hurtful?
Very much, very, very hurtful, disappointing, and did he really love me?
Mm. And so did you wanted him to be more of a guide for you in life, right? When it came to relationships with boys and later on with men, correct?
Yes, that would have been very helpful if my family guided me throughout my younger years at all. I just felt that they I was more of their possession. I was more sheltered by them. No guidance whatsoever. I mean, they didn't even teach me how to even comb my own hair.
Mm.
Fat girl. I think fat girl came to me when I first um, went to Yerba Buena High School. I don't think anybody necessarily called me fat girl, but it was just more of a feeling that I got, and like nobody actually called me that, but just the feeling I got of how people treated me, of how dare I type of thing. Um, I think I got that more of when they had a Miss BSU pageant at school, and I was encouraged to um, join that. And the advisor there, Mrs. Carr, she was very nice counselor there, and she encouraged me to, sign up for the pageant. And I remember my first crush. His name was Leonard, star athlete there at school, good looking, and pretty much put my world to an end. Um, Mrs. Carr talked, you need to have an escort. Mrs. Carr talked him into being my escort. And so I signed up for Miss BSU pageant. He was my escort. My mom was there, and went through the whole pageant. And of course, I mean, I didn't win, but I had a wonderful time, participating and everything. And then afterwards, my mom um, was there. She was going to take myself and her and Leonard and his family out to dinner. And boom. It was the most embarrassing, most devastating thing of my life. I mean, I had the biggest crush on him, and he told me that was not part of the deal. I didn't was mortified. I did not know what to do. And I was like, "What?" He said all I was supposed to do was walk with you. Later, I found out that Mrs. Carr made a deal with him to take me as my escort to the Miss BSU pageant. I went to my mom and told her, and I went home, I cried. I didn't even want to go to school there, continue to go to school there. And from that point on is when the fat girl appeared. I, everyone, it seemed, that was my name from that point. Everybody looked at me that way. I felt that from every one of my peers from that point on. There goes the fat girl. Fat girl. That's what I was when I was in high school. But when I was with Rainbow for Girls, I wasn't that. What was it that they saw that the people I was going to high school didn't see? They saw me. Really, like, who I was beyond that fat girl. I could be myself. I could show people who I really was beyond that fat girl that only the people I went to school with saw. I mean, so much so that the Guy organization, the DMLAs, they saw me. That they nominated me as their sweetheart, which is their homecoming queen. And if I ran for homecoming queen at my school, all they would see is the fat girl. There would be no way that I could even think about, let alone come close. Why would I even consider becoming homecoming queen at school? But Rainbow for Girls was everything to me. And if anybody would ask me, I would leave 50 years old right now and run back there in a minute. Every time when we have geezer reunions, I mean, that's what they call the Rainbow and DMLA reunions. I cannot wait to gather around with all of those people and relive all of those memories, those crazy, wild and crazy teenage things that we did, you know, freezing each other's bras when we had sleepovers because you fell asleep first, and you know, the scavenger hunts in cars and spending the night over each other's houses and all the charity we did, and just going beyond just that. I mean, I could call them my brothers and my sisters. Even now, today, I could pick up the phone and reach out and call them for help, or, you know, hey Sally, hey Renee, hey Bobby. You know, those are my brothers. Those are my sisters. I was too pregnant to ride my bike to Yerba Buena anymore, and I had to transfer to Andrew Hill, closer to my home. Walking the halls pregnant was difficult, but I could do it. Passing by the students, glancing at me, giving me dirty looks. It's okay, I could take it. But then when your instructors are also giving you dirty looks, that became harder, more difficult. Judging you, on top of your peers judging you, then I couldn't take it any longer. So my mom came and talked to the principal, and then the principal jumps on the bandwagon and tells my mom, well, if your daughter had not done what she had done, then she wouldn't be in the predicament that she's in. I was very proud of my mom taking my side, and defending me. Very, very, very proud of my mom. And then her coming to my defense and saying, they have no right to judge my daughter. I was shocked that it happens every day. Young women getting pregnant. I was eventually able to go to a maternity pregnancy school. When I got there, I was shocked. Young girls, 12, 14, pregnant. I was 16. When I was 12, 14, I hadn't even kissed a boy. I used to chase after them, playing tag, football, jumping over fences, not kissing them. These girls were on their second, third baby. But then again, maybe I was wrong, judging them just like I'd been judged. When I gave birth to Catherine, crazy day. Everybody was running around. My aunt ran over to our house to pick up my mom. And here she comes, that little tiny woman with her little shoes, her little sandals. That was very funny. And comes and picks me up from school, takes me to my doctor's appointment. Luckily, it was on that day that I was supposed to deliver her. And go to the doctor's office, and I'm standing there waiting. Raina, who is our nurse, she opens the door. She calls me in, and I said, well, it's about time. She says, if you had to go to the bathroom, you know where it is. I said, excuse me, I'm in labor. Hello? And she's like, what? Get in here. Go in, and here he comes. All of 5'2", Dr. Hubbard, little black man, little tiny fro. And he comes in, and he's just grinning from ear to ear, like he's the expected father. I'm glad he was happy. So, next thing you know, we're back at home, waiting. Then we go over to Cynthia's house, who is one of my rainbow sisters. They are like my family. So we go over their house, we're waiting, and labor is progressing. Time to go to the hospital. And we all get ready to go. And she has like 4 brothers. Everybody's trying to carry me to the car. One brother under one arm, one brother other arm, one brother on one leg. I'm like, hello, am I somebody's luggage or what? This is like a hysterical thing. Finally get to the hospital, get settled. My cousin Marie, who we thought could not have children, was my labor coach. She had gotten shot in the head by a gun, and we thought she couldn't have kids, so I chose her as my labor coach to be with me. And I remember when they wheeled me into the actual delivery room. It's not like it is now. You have to go into a separate room. She was so excited and happy, and Catherine's godfather, he was at the time like only 15 years old, and I remember them trying to take him into the labor room, dress him up in the gown and everything. He freaked out, panicked. I'm not the dad, I'm the godfather, I'm not the godfather. And it was great. It was a real joyous time for like all of us, everybody. And so we went in, Catherine was born. Marie was so overjoyed. When she came out to announce to everybody that she was born, she was in tears, just sobbing. And she said, "Oh, Aunt Rosemary," to my mom. Just her face was full of tears. And my mom was turned white as a ghost, thinking like I died. The baby died. She didn't know what happened. And finally, Marie took a deep breath and said, "She's so beautiful." I think my mom like jumped and strangled her, wanted to strangle her to death, you know. But she was healthy, beautiful. She's the best thing ever happened to me, even at 16. Jim was Catherine's father. I met Jim at the Alano Club, which is an AA situation. When my sister was murdered, I was so devastated by that, which surprised me because we weren't very close.
How old were you when she was murdered?
I just turned 16. And I was so devastated that I withdrew inside myself. Just kind of stopped speaking. And if you spoke to me, I would burst into tears, just crying. So I couldn't go to school until I got over this grieving. So since my family was taking care of her arrangements, I stayed with my friend Joe and his family. His mom was a recovering alcoholic drug addict. And so she was going to these meetings. And he was able to break in.
What do you mean break in?
Well, they had like a little cafe there, and he would come and sit by me.
Was he recovering alcoholic?
Yes. Yeah, he was in his 40s, and he'd come and sit by me, and he'd ask me, "Can I come and sit by you?" And I would just look at him.
But he knew how old you were at the time? Did you look older than you looked?
I think I looked probably older. And he would always say, "Let me come and tell, can I sit by you?" And I wouldn't respond. And he'd say, "Let me tell you a bullshit story." And I just wouldn't even really respond to him, just give him a weird look. So he would tell me about the times when he was in Vietnam and what would happen out there. And eventually, after 2-3 stories, I started opening up to him, talking to him. And so
What made you trust him?
I don't know. I connected with him somehow, some way. Something inside of me just made me feel like safe and like he understood.
Mm.
So I did. I trusted him and wanted to do whatever I could to be around him. It was my first kiss, was my first everything, obviously. So, yeah. Once my mom found out, then
Found out that you were seeing him?
yeah.
Did she try to stop this situation?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She told him if she ever saw him again around me, then she was gonna press charges. And
But you persisted.
no, I didn't. Once she said that, then by then I was pregnant, and I didn't realize I was pregnant though till later. So
And then what happened to him?
I don't know.
To this day, you never saw him again.
No,
From that day on.
no, never saw him again, and I don't, unless he's heard. I don't.
So he has a daughter. He has no idea. that
No,
he has.
no idea.
But he knew you were pregnant before he left.
No,
Wow.
no, we've never told him. I never told him.
How
Got
could
a
you? You
chance.
couldn't find him.
Yeah, couldn't find him, and I didn't even know I was pregnant till I was 7 months.
Mm.
So, unfortunately, she has never met her dad, and he has never had the, chance to meet her. So I don't like dyeing my hair because my mom, she was very beautiful and a model in 1960s, and so she never let them dye her hair, and so she used to use a lot of wigs, and she was very good at styling, so much so that everybody always thought it was her hair. So I used to watch her getting ready, and it's just amazing. I used to just be in awe by watching her, putting all these hair pieces on. So in order to get color in my hair, I use extensions because they come in all kinds of colors: blue, pink, red, and everybody always thinks that it's my hair because they come in my same tone of color. So just like now, like the top is my color and the bottom is more of a red, and it's so much fun. I can not only express myself through my art, but through my hair, and have fun. After Catherine had been born and my mom was, getting sicker, she wasn't getting any better. Even after they removed the cancer, it was just so difficult to go back to high school. I mean, I only had one more semester. So I just decided to try out college. Why not? So I decided to go to Evergreen and chose my major in psychology and administration of justice. Try it out, see where I would go from there. And I liked it. Decided maybe I'll do forensic psychology. Combine the two together. See how that would work out. I loved Evergreen. So beautiful. Everybody accepted me for me. I wasn't the fat girl. I didn't have anything there to prove. I could be Callie's mom, and nobody cared I had a kid. Nobody cared. I could just go there and be myself and move forward. Nobody cared my mom was dying. You know? Just start. Maybe figuring out what's gonna happen. Start something for Callie and me. Figure it out. I'm somebody's mom. I chose adoption for my second and my third child. My second child is a boy, and his name was Bard. And my third child is a girl, and her name was Etta. And I chose adoption because of my first pregnancy. It was when I was young, and I just didn't know how to be somebody's mother, and I wanted them to have two parents, and I just didn't know how to be somebody's mother. I wasn't very good at it. I wanted them to make sure that they had a good life. So my girlfriend Renee told me that there are people that can't have their own children. That was very hard for me to believe, since I was very fertile and I could have children, it seems, whenever I wanted. So I sought that out. I sought a birth mother advocate, is what they call them. Her name was Sally, and through her, with my second child, Bard, I got 13 different letters they write to birth mothers with their picture attached, telling me about their families, and kind of go on an interview and figure out who would be the best parents for your child. And they go through the whole pregnancy with you. I chose Margot and David. They were the best fit. David is low income. He builds low income housing. Margot is a professor at San Jose State. She teaches history of women. They're a lot like me. Very laid back and easygoing and loving people. I got to meet their families, their parents, their sisters, brothers. It seemed like I would fit right in their family. Like I could be one of their family members. They were ideal. They were there when Bard was born, and got to take him home with them after 3 days and love him and like he was their own. I got to be a part of his life and see him whenever I wanted. I was there when they adopted him, and I've seen him grow up to be a wonderful young man. He's 25 years old now and a barber and wants to be a music producer. He looks just like me, acts just like me. Etta, she's a beautiful, gorgeous woman, reminds me so much of my mom. When I got pregnant for this third time, wasn't sure, was I going to keep her? Just wasn't sure. I didn't think I was going to choose Margot and David at first, because they told me, if you do this again, don't ask us. So when I made my decision, I didn't ask them. But the adoption agency that I went through told them, And the first thing they did was call me and ask me, why didn't I ask them? So I told them. And they said, are you crazy? How amazing is it you could have at least even a half sibling? They were willing to accept her with open arms, and in the end, I was so happy I made the choice. Because Bard loved her right away. He was there when she was born, and he was like, that's my sister. He got to hold her, be the first one to hold her when she was born and in this world, and she's going to university in North Carolina. She's now 21 years old. She's going to be an entertainer, the ones that do weddings, decorate for your weddings. She's such a California girl. She's got her own personality. And as she says, why did I make her the smallest one out of all 5? Best thing I ever did was let them go. Let them be in that family. But the best thing they gave to me was allow me to be a part of their family, their mama. So here I am, pregnant with Devin, about to give birth. Number 5, after having 4 children. Now I'm facing a C-section. Can't believe it. Just can't believe it. And that's just because Devin decides. He wants to be born like this. After the doctors go in for the last final check, the nurses are feeling somebody ding-a-ling-ling. The nurses panic. They don't know what it is. Oh my God, the baby's breached. The baby's breached. They think so. They go in for the ultrasound and thinking that he's breached. No, it's not. It's Devin's hand. So they keep pushing and pushing him up, pushing him up. He's not moving. He's not budging. He says, no way. I'm going to be born just like this. So here I go, being wheeled in for surgery. So he was born beautiful, tiny, but healthy, luckily. There was a knock on the door, kind of late at night, and Devin had just been born. Forrest is about 4 years old. It was a sheriff, detective, papers saying that I had no right to take Forrest out of Santa Clara County. So I had to give him over to Scott. It's hard. It's funny though. I remember it was the first time that Scott was there to meet Devin. I was scared, nervous. But I knew that Forrest would be okay because Kathy would take care of him. Mary would take care of Forrest. It was hard seeing my baby boy leave with his dad all of his stuff while I stayed behind so far away. Served with papers saying Scott wanted full custody for us because I had abandoned him. I hadn't abandoned him. I was living in Santa Barbara. He came and took Forrest from me. I'd just given birth to Devin. I had a C-section. What was I to do? I was going to fight. When I went to court, the charges against me were abandonment. I hadn't abandoned my son. Told the judge my side. He lied about everything. He said that he served me with papers and I had ignored them. I hadn't been served anything. Who signed my name? I didn't. Luckily, I was believed. The truth had prevailed. Justice was not blind, and I was able to get my son. He was safe.
What about the divorce?
Scott asked the judge, "What about the divorce?" Hadn't been finalized. The judge said, "Oh, you're not divorced yet?" Nope, we weren't divorced. Well, hey, step on up. Let's get this over with too. Since I filed, Scott could not say a word. Nothing. It was all on my side. I was free. Finally free. Couldn't believe I was finally free. I was done. I was in the middle of my illness and the bus was going by my house. I got on and it stopped at West Valley. My savior. And happened to find out it had both of my loves, criminal justice and fashion. Wow, I can do both. I'm gonna do both. That's where it all began. I found my safety net. Something that's gonna help me get through the life of Bell's palsy. Living with Bell's palsy and figuring out what is a life with this disease called Bell's palsy.
Why fashion? I mean, why did you choose fashion? Tell me about your love for fashion and jewelry and all that.
I chose fashion because I had a certification in fashion merchandising, and the fashion department at West Valley I wanted to bring myself to the 21st century. I was creating bags, crocheting bags. Sam said, if you could never do anything else, meaning work, if I could never go back to work again because of my illness, at least I could do that. I could create a business out of that. So I thought, well, I love fashion, and maybe that would help my business. That would help me bring myself to the 21st century. At least I could know what's going on, and also whether or not it really could be a business. I mean, yeah, he's my cheerleader. Yeah, he was proud of me in what I was doing. I loved what I was doing and what I was creating. But crocheting, I mean, that's the old way. That's nothing new. So I wanted to go and see what is new, what's happening in the world of fashion. In administration of justice, I met my little red-headed angel, Renee Paquier. She was teaching administration 1 class, basic, and I was struggling in her class. I had talked to her and had told her I had already graduated with my AA degree from Ventura in criminal justice. So she told me she wanted me to write down my experiences. Tell her my story. I thought that was kind of weird. But that was my final. I needed to do it. I remember the day that Jamie came into my life. He was the speaker at school. Jamie broke me open. He pretty much put me on the path that I'm on right now.
What do you mean he broke you open?
Well, when he came to speak to us and tell us his story.
He came to the administrative justice, right?
Yeah. Came to school to talk to our classes, to tell us his story about when he was inside prison and tell us his story. He was running late that day, and I already had a preconceived idea of who he was going to be and all of that. I figured, oh, he's going to come with this, button-up, freshly pressed shirt and tie and trying to impress us and hide his jail persona and all of that. My dad had done time, my brother had done time, so I knew. But when Jamie finally did show up, he wasn't what I expected. He wasn't who I thought he was going to be. Once he started talking, wow, I was projected out of that room. He lifted me. I don't know if you can understand. I was literally projected out of that room. I was no longer a part of that room. I could hear the sounds of the jail cell doors slamming. I could hear and feel the sounds, the smells, almost feel the experiences that my dad, my brother experienced. He told us about going and putting on his suit, which was this vest he put on of books to protect himself. So when he would get stabbed out in the yard, I could feel it.
And then when I got to prison, And I seen what I had to do. My first year was just trying to, find out, what's going on, because I know there was killing happening. I entered the prison system in the early 80s, in fact, 1981. At 18 years old, I should have been sent to YA, which is a reflection of how our system is. I should have went to YA. And this is a big thing with me, that I try to get down to these courts and talk to these judges and let them know that it's got to be a better system on how, if a young man has to go to prison, on how we send him to prison. Because going like I went, it just wasn't cool. It wasn't. I've been jumped, stabbed twice, hit in the back of the head with a mop wringer, damn near knocked out, 4 stitches, shot at twice, and just all kind of other stuff. Living daily with stress that you could never believe. Every day knowing that as I'm packing my books, or my shield, what was called, before I left my cell. Very real. You have staff that are told by the staff, are trained, you know what, this is the enemy. The inmates are the enemy. They're, for lack of better word, they're all pieces of shit, and that's how we're going to treat them. They're always trying to get over on you, don't get close to them, this and that. Well, that's kind of hard to tell somebody that's living at prison with you. Just in case you're thinking about you want to be a correctional officer. It's definitely job security, but you living around inmates 8, 10, 12 hours a day, sometimes 16. So you know what that'll do to you. You hang around something, you lay with dogs, you get fleas.
All of a sudden, I was put back in my body. I was present in that room. And I had to leave. I took Maiko and I was out of that room. And I was so overwhelmed by just crying. I mean, just literally just heaving, crying. And Renee came out and met me outside, and I told her what had happened, and we talked until I calmed down, and she asked me if I wanted to go back in, and I said, yeah, I did. I wanted to finish hearing his story. And afterwards, I went up to him and I just embraced him and hugged him. And what he was talking about was how, when he went to prison, how the family feels when, what happens to them when you go to prison. He was there when the riots were happening, and how he wrote a letter to his family and how he regretted everything he had done to them. And that's what hit me. I guess I was feeling what my father and maybe my brother was feeling about what they had done to my family. And maybe I never expressed that. I didn't really know my dad. All I knew was his name. I never asked him more than that. Never felt I had the right to ask him more than that. I feel he stole that from me. I didn't even know my grandparents, his parents. They died before I was even thought of. And I never asked him that. That was stolen from me. that's what I mean by him breaking me wide open. That I realized that day.
My soul, sometimes to rise up and see the light shining outside. Save me when the world was cold, when the world was cold. It feels like sometimes it feels like rain. It's coming again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's coming again. Let me say one more time. It feels like rain's coming again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Feels like rain on the horizon.